I would be remiss if I didn't learn something about Manly P. Hall.
Yeah.
You know, just one of your guys.
He was born in 1901, started his teaching career in the 1920s. And one of the great mysteries about Manly P. Hall is that he emerged basically fully formed as a teacher. So some of his greatest works were in his 20s. One of the things I try to talk about in my Manly Hall book is to emphasize how fascinating the first 10 years of his career was, because this is a field we normally think of old wise men. You don't think of like a young, fresh-faced 20-year-old who kind of comes up out of nowhere in Los Angeles, almost fully formed as an intellectual and as a teacher. So there's a real mystery about the guy and how he wrote the things that he wrote in his early 20s, and how it was like the fully mature teachings already there from the very, very beginning.
Right.
When he was about 22, he published a book that within Freemasonry, which is an organization of old men.
Right.
You know, and when you're young, you come up gradually in the ranks. So Manly Hall wrote what is, I think, widely considered within Masonry one of the greatest books of Masonry that unravels the symbolism of its core symbols.
Wow.
When he was 22. And he wasn't a Freemason. And what's really interesting is that he gave, for about a year and a half, a series of about 20 to 30 lectures at the Scottish Rite Temple in San Francisco, where young Manly Hall is giving lectures not just on Masonry, on all types of material to a body of like 32nd and 33rd degree Freemasons, and he's teaching them about Masonry.
Wow.
It's like, what is going on here? Like, this is a category of person that we're not used to in our society.
Right.
But this is a sage. This is somebody who has access to a type of knowledge that's not just scholarship that you learn from books.
Right.
This is somebody who's bringing something from within, and that's infusing the greatness of his work.
Right. Right. You can hear it. Sometimes you can have that vortex.
Yeah.
It just opens. Mitch, what you got to say?
Yeah, I've always been fascinated by it. The ancients felt that the prophet, the seer, the scribe was a recipient of a kind of bestowal of genius from the gods, from what some might call spirit, from what some might call deity, what some might call the unified field. And so maybe, there was something of that in the life of a very young Manly P. Hall, where he was a recipient of something like that, just as the ancients recorded.
The work he's most known for is an encyclopedic type of work called The Secret Teachings of All Ages. And so it's basically an encyclopedia of the Western esoteric tradition going back thousands of years. And the amount of knowledge that's in this book is truly humbling. Like, you can't open it up and look through it without just being like completely blown away by it.
Wow.
And it was written by someone who was 25 in the 1920s without easy access to this kind of information.
This is a replica of the original. It's slightly smaller than the original, but it is close.
Wow.
And I can't even tell you.
That's crazy.
The splendors within this book, I'll just go randomly. I can't even tell you.
The illustrations.
It's not ordinary. It's an accomplishment that no one can quite get in front of.
Yeah.
And the illustrations by J. Augustus Knapp, which I've always been an admirer of, I think are extraordinary. When you hold this in your hands, I don't have an original, and this is very close to the original size, but not quite. When you hold it in your hands, it just feels, I think people feel a sense that their life is changing. Right. The vastness, the correlations of ideas, the completion of all these different symbolical philosophies. And then you go off into a various wide range of directions. 2 chapters, not 1, but 2. On Pythagorean mathematics. Brilliant. A chapter on the esotericism of the Shakespearean dramas. A chapter on cryptograms, worthy of a book in itself.
And another thing that's interesting about that book is that only focuses on the Western lineage.
Yeah.
That book doesn't even encompass the full spectrum of Manly Hall's teachings, because he really emphasizes in a lot of other work the Eastern tradition.
Right.
And you won't find a better and more knowledgeable person on esoteric Buddhism. He talks about Taoism, he talks about Hinduism. It seems as though he had the keys to unlocking the symbolism of all the ancient religions and philosophies. And another fascinating thing about him is that the way that he reveals what he knows, it's like he's sprinkling out information. You really get the impression he knows much more than he's even letting out.
Right, yeah.
But I found in my research and analysis of his work that he gives out key details to unraveling the mystery of it. all over the place. Like some of the most important bits might be from a journal article in 1952 that won't be in a book, his most famous work. Some of it might be in a lecture. So it's almost like you have to go through the full spectrum of his teachings, which he gave out over a 70-year period. And only then do you actually get the full picture of what he actually let out, because he sprinkled it all over the place.
Wow. Amazing, man.
So he himself is basically a representative or embodiment of this esoteric mystery school tradition. He not only speaks extensively about it and all the different manifestations that it had, but he gives you the inner details of it. He explains the whole thing, and he also gives you these beautiful descriptions of the experience of inward mysticism, the experience of illumination, and what these things are like. This was somebody who had the aura and the disposition and the demeanor of an old Taoist sage. He seemed to have the keys to unlocking the meaning of every different ancient philosophic and religious tradition, and would masterfully unfold the symbolism and tell you what the real meaning was behind it. When you look at the content of his material, he's, on one hand, is a scholar like a normal academic professor would be, but he's clearly bringing something inward into it that's giving him his wisdom. He's clearly aware of some underlying archetype or pattern that he's able to apply masterfully in his dissection of the symbolism of all these different traditions to show that they all have a common secret teaching behind them. And that secret teaching is based on the shamanistic inward tradition, because when you go inward and you have this inward experience of the great mysteries, it's one ultimate truth that you are discovering. And that's why there can be many different cultures whose own wisdom traditions all point to the same truth, because that's what you experience.
Yeah, totally.
So he must have had the experience himself to know what the master pattern was and to be able to describe it so eloquently from such an early age, which is what he did.
Well, this morning we are going to discover a little more about life. Life is not simply a drifting along through a mass of physical phenomena. Life is the unfolding of a plan, a purpose. There is a divine power at the source of life. Life at a stream of some kind. Life is an unfolding process going on constantly. It has passed through one cycle after another. It continues to move cyclically within the boundaries of law. We consider deity as a supreme power at the source of life. The will of this power is the perfection of all that lives according to some code of perfection. Deity is the power that created the human being. Humanity is a projection of deity into manifestation. Why was this projection necessary? This is a question that is constantly under consideration. If we wish to assume that deity is all-powerful, omnipotent in every sense of the word, why did deity not produce its creation perfect to start with? After all, why should deity create an imperfect structure and then demand its perfection through a series of what to the average person consists of misfortunes? Where and how is it that humanity, being a product of the divine mind and the divine will and the divine soul, should not have been developed perfect in the beginning? Why should there be this tremendous struggle against the evils of life? Why is man not perfect if he is the product of perfection? Now there has to be an answer to this. Perhaps there's something else to the thing. There's something more that we haven't investigated at all. And that is, what is the basic structure of life in this world? One of the oldest forms of symbolism for life is a river. It is a stream, and in most philosophies of antiquity, this stream of life is flowing out of a cause. It is like a stream rising in a great mountain and gradually drifting down the side of a hill, gathering small ripplets to itself, until finally, with a tremendous crash, this stream of life falls into the sea. And this is the great cycle of life. Life moving inevitably towards infinite differentiation and finally into ultimate reorganization and reintegration. Life itself is a forever ensouling power. It is continually unfolding itself. And this great stream of life, which we call humanity, is one tremendous entity. an entity which is, according to some of the Hindu philosophies, composed of nearly 60 billion single entities. Humanity is one structure, one being, one substance, and this humanity rises within the unfolding of universal phenomena. Therefore, we are thinking now not of humanity as a series of individuals alone, but humanity as the one being which we call the human being. We find this in the ancient religious systems of both Christianity and the ancient Hebrew systems from which the Old Testament was derived. We find, therefore, that in the Old Testament, that Adam Kadmon, is not a person. Adam Kadmon is humanity collective. There is one mysterious power. This being is one being. And this one being consists of all individual human beings considered together and moving together in the great river of life. And this river of life is being moving to the perfection of itself. This is a little abstract and a little big to think about all at once, but it gives us a very important clue, namely that we are moving together along a pattern that is intended to bring about certain definite results. In other words, we are not paying for past sins, nor are we doomed to make more sins and nothing else. We are here to grow, to unfold the potential which we call human, which is one of the innumerable levels of life in the infinite universe. We are one creature, more or less, as cast away like Robinson Crusoe on a desert island, but not cast away outside of the divine purpose. Cast away to prove and justify that purpose. We are here to achieve the growth of this being which we call humanity. This being is made up of an infinite number of separate personalities, all growing together. This great being which we call the humanity also breaks up within itself into a number of races, sub-races, and divisions, all of which are part of one structure. This one structure being a level of growth in the universe. And humanity is an entity growing, one entity, made up of an infinite variety of individualities. And when we think of man, we think of mankind not as a person, but as the person, composed of all the individual members of the human life wave. Humanity becomes therefore a life wave, a life motion in space, a life principle. It is here to grow, and the symbol of that growth is simply a child. A child is a symbolic unit in this great process. The child is not born to suffer. The child is not born to make mistakes. The child is here to learn through trial and error to develop the potential of itself. In other words, by growing, the individual overcomes the stasis which we call inertia. Everything in the solar system is growing. These things are part of a great unfolding order of life. We are part of a plan which we don't know the end of. We probably will not for a long time. But we know we are growing for a purpose, that this growth is proper, natural, and if resisted, can be the source of complications.
In Manly Hall's philosophy and in the esoteric philosophy that he represents, the human species is a wholeness. The human spirit is a wholeness expressing itself through each of us as one conscious being. And that consciousness is expressing itself through the collective journey of humanity. So when humanity evolves, it's actually the consciousness growing that is within humanity. The individual physical human body, the physical personality, is only one aspect of the human that incarnates. The mind actually is only partly into the body. There's another aspect of the human mind that's connected to a shared field. So in a way, humanity actually is a single entity that is expressing itself through these various cells, and these cells organize into a pattern which actually resembles in many ways the patterns of the body. But the whole thing, there's a Kabbalah to it, there's a secret geometry to it, there's an orderly pattern of elements and signs and symbols that actually reveal the whole pattern. And I think the reason that Manly Hall seemed to have the key to all these different systems of philosophy is because somehow at an early point he gained an awareness or an attunement with the fundamental archetype. And then once you have that fundamental archetype, then you can see it expressed everywhere. And then you have the key to unlocking and unraveling the mystery.
Now, finally, if we consider this vast unity as one, which it is, then we have the problem of this little atom. And this little atom is ourselves. This little atom is each human being, because each human being is a galaxy. Now, because humanity is made up of many different groups, we also have a series of subdivisions within the great structure of humanity. We have racial subdivisions. We have various types of psychological differences. We have religions as units. We have all kinds of unities within the one great unit. And all of these unities within the one are compatible. So we have a very interesting problem here to think about, namely that we are a unit of life moving through infinite space. We are a unit of life composed of a vast mass of units, a great moving mass of life with a certain specific destiny. We then consider how many entities are in this life wave. How many souls or beings are coming in and going out to constantly keep alive the great forward motion of the entire. We can use the Hindu answer as well as any other. At least it gives an idea of magnitude. Their theory is that the human life wave consists of approximately 60 billion entities. That is the life wave to which we belong. Now, obviously, these entities are in a constant process of coming in and going out. There are human beings born every moment. There are human beings passing out of life every moment. But humanity moves forward steadily, gradually increasing in number. Now, does this increase represent more entities? No. It merely represents more of the great cycle coming into embodiment at one time. In each generation, a few more come in. Now, this doesn't mean that there is one single new soul in the world. It simply means that gradually, vehicles for the manifestation of human entities are improving, growing, unfolding, and making possible more to come in and take the lessons of life with us. This is important because it gradually means that the life wave is moving gradually into objectivity. The life wave is more and more embodied. Now, this is a very large concept, and it's a concept that must be given a lot of consideration. But it is also a concept which contains within it space for growth, and it takes away from us forever this fear of eternal damnation, or from the scientific point of view, eternal oblivion. We are growing up as a being in space. Every form of life is part of something coming forth to go to school, to go to learn the lessons of immortality, to become perfect as their Father in heaven is perfect. And this whole pattern has in it not one single moment of evil. And we like to think of ourselves as perhaps a vast ship upon a sea of infinity. And on this ship, like Noah's Ark, are all the living creatures of the world, all on the great journey from here to there, which in reality is from ignorance to wisdom. Life is itself a moving power, carrying within itself all things that live, and everything that lives is under the laws of life and under the rules of it. And the only way we can have happiness and peace is to abide by these rules.
Manly P. Hall, when he talks about history, the development of civilization, and the passing down of knowledge through the different eras of human history, he talks a lot about the mystery schools.
Right.
In every culture and throughout history, you find references that there was the existence of these mystery schools. And this was an institution of initiation, but it was about elevating consciousness, about perfecting the mind.
So the mystery schools go back a long, long way in time. Every part of the land of the world has its own mythology and mystery schools. You know, life is a mystery school, really. We're all actors on the stage, but we have to wake up to play our part properly as a work of service. But there were formal mystery schools set up to try and help people and train them. First of all, you have to become a cathar, which means purified, pure one, and that's controlling your will, your desires, your emotions. And the mystic was seen as the second degree, developing the thought level, but seeing it acted by others who were initiates, proper initiates, either on stage or in the land. And then eventually you would be invited to take part yourself in it. And then you'd become the seer. You'd suddenly see the wisdom there, see the mystery and really get it. And then beyond that, you go further into what's nowadays called the Rosicrucian level. You become the proper adept and then the master and so on like that. But the mystery school really is a school that will practice all of that. And you learn to make your desires or will into loving ones, goodwill, which is God's will. That's fundamental wisdom. And that's an energy, and that produces a thought, and you have to turn that thought into good thought, hopeful thought. And then you put it into action in a charitable way, in a loving way, to help others and so on like that. And if you're successful and do that well, you know, you have a kind of revelation. And if it's a really good revelation, it lights you up. Because as you do a work of action, it raises the central kundalini, and that has the ability to raise the heart. It goes into the heart chakra and raise your heart love up to your head, and you become illumined. In our consciousness, we feel it's higher and higher, but actually we're going deeper and deeper into the heart. That's really what's happening. It's all heart-centered. That's the Rosicrucian consciousness. It's that consciousness of what we would call a sainted person. But you've got to keep on doing that labor of love to keep that burning, as it were, and then you start creating what's called the light body.
You're describing that is very much tied into service. Like, it's the act of doing the service that is part of the process of raising this energy.
Yeah, it's the only way to do it. That's simple.
One of the things we want to know is, we see references to the mystery schools in the past. Where are they today? Our society, we need something like that, but it's not available. So there's a disillusionment, like maybe this thing doesn't exist at all. But then someone like Manly Hall comes along, and he's not only talks about it, but he seems to be a living representation that it does exist. It's just not in the overt society, but it still does exist. And so he makes cryptic references kind of sprinkled all over that the mystery schools do still exist. And it seems clear that Manly Hall could have only taught the things that he taught and had the knowledge that he had if somehow he had a relationship to it.
We have to work to understand the world we live in and the laws that govern it. Now, for instance, we know that the child coming into life begins to learn some ordinary things from the family. Beyond that is kindergarten and grammar school. Then comes high school. And then comes the university. But there is one other school beyond the university. The Rosicrucians call this other school the College of the Holy Spirit. And all education fails unless it leads in the end to the realization of the spiritual foundations of human society. We are now suffering from the result of stopping our education before we reach the College of the Holy Spirit. We think we are here to achieve material success. There is no such a thing as material success that has any meaning. Let us remember one very interesting thing. The school of the Holy Spirit is the school of nature. It is the school of the immutable laws and principles that govern all things. Whether we want to or not, we are in that school. We basically are here to grow, to learn, and to live. We were put here by a power that is greater than ourselves for reasons that we do not fully understand. But we have received the foundation as to what it's all about. We are here for a purpose. And if we fulfill that purpose, we will live in peace. If we do not fulfill that purpose, we will live in misery. The greatest cause of our delay and difficulty is our refusal to accept the evidence that nature provides. Nature wants things to be used to advance the causes of life and to advance the realities of life. And if we will advance these realities, we will be protected. Because in nature there's only one power, and that is the power of good. Evil has no power. Evil is not something that is struggling like a horn-tailed demon to destroy us. The evil, so-called, is simply our own self-centeredness. It seems to me that finally this world is a school. It is a place of learning. You turn in your papers and have them graded. And if you're particularly good, you get a better mark. Education is the release from within the individual of the divine and soul power with which he is endowed. The purpose of education is to make the best part of man ruler of the rest. When the individual is governed by the soul, when the inside in its integrities dominates the outside, we will have the same thing in society. We will have a society of people living simply, living reasonably, living happily, because they are fulfilling the useful things of life. They are doing things that are interesting and valuable, because the inside is being expressed. As it is now, we all have soul power. We all have soul consciousness, but we're not doing very much with it. We allow it to be obscured by every temptation that comes along. We've got to change this. We've got to make it better by gradually becoming masters of our own lives.
If you go back and look at the origin of the mystery schools, go back to tribal civilization, the mystery schools originate in the shamanistic medicine and the earliest priesthoods. It's a pattern of knowledge that is developed from inward experience. In the tradition of esoteric philosophy, the type of knowledge that's preserved there, the sacred arcanum, it has to do with the spirit laws of nature, the spirit laws of the solar system, the cosmos that we exist in, the laws that must be obeyed, because if you violate them, you remove yourself from the life energy. So the great illumined ones, they cut through the illusion of this material state, and you can see the bigger picture. You're participating in this larger reality, and you're understanding that this whole move of consciousness into this material state is a voluntary move that's taking place within itself, and that it's serving an ultimate higher spiritual purpose. But this is all proceeding according to a law and to a plan and purpose. Even though it's hard to see that in the short term. Usually when someone has a big breakthrough in consciousness and has a download about the larger mysteries of life, their inclination is to put forward their own original version of philosophy. And what Manly Hall chose to do instead was to take that download and say, instead of creating his own original system, he was like, I'm going to explain these ideas by doing a survey of all the previous teachings that the great luminaries of the past have given us. So he'll go into Pythagoras and he'll go into the details about what he says, and he'll show you that they align with what esoteric Buddhism says or Hermeticism. So in that way, he does reveal this idea that the great philosophies are part of one tradition, because there's only one actual experience of illumination, no matter what cultural background you have, no matter what time that you lived in. And it's that objective fact which explains that all these ancient traditions all say the same thing, approaching it from different angles, because there only is one truth.
According to the ancient beliefs in these matters, the soul was a vestment, the golden wedding garment, the garment that was to be worn to the wedding of the Lamb, and actually was a phase of the magnetic field of the human body. In other words, the golden wedding garment, or the soul, was a construction that arises within the magnetic field of the human aura. As the works of goodness increases, and the individual makes certain changes and improvements in his own life pattern, there are changes in the magnetic field. Gradually, there becomes a transformation, and there appears in the field a luminous quality, which represents the goodness of our hearts and minds. This goodness increases as we increase in righteousness, and in the end it becomes a luminous vestment within the magnetic field, or within the aura. And when it attains to this magnitude, it is called the golden wedding garment. Now this is the garment of righteousness, the garment that is earned by the labors of the life. It becomes also part of the great protection which guards the individual from within himself as he increases in understanding and insight. In all practical purposes, therefore, the story of the golden wedding garment, or the soul, is the story of the visible changes in the constitution of the magnetic fields of the human body, which tells us of the unfoldment and development of the being that has that body. Also, the aura or magnetic field does manifest to some degree in the visible world. As the individual increases in spiritual integrities, these integrities become a part of his essential consciousness. They are not moods that arise and fail. If the growth is genuine, these moods grow and continue until the individual's inner life is transmuted and transformed. Therefore, in a sense also, the soul becomes the stone of the philosopher, the mysterious alchemical mystery of the transformation of all base substances into the gold of wisdom. Therefore, when we speak of the victory of soul over circumstance, we refer to the growth of inner light over the pressures and problems of outer living. We find gradually that the strength to do it right develops within ourselves. We are not saved, so to say, by some outside force. We grow from within, and as we grow stronger from within, the adversities of the outside become less. The golden wedding garment, therefore, is also this mysterious elixir of life, one drop of which transforms 10,000 times its own weight. These terms, which are used in mysticism to guard the secrets from the profane, are also in a way mysteriously correct, for they represent the tremendous increase of inward power resulting from the transmutation of the base elements of life. Humanity has the power of redemption within itself, and each individual has the power of redemption within himself. He must develop this power and must strengthen it and must permit it to manifest out into his daily life. And when he does so, he achieves the transmutation of the base substances of his body. Now, base substances in this case does not mean evil substances. It simply means matter. It is the natural substance of the natural world. But the individual is not of this. Though it may seem like a plant, his root is in material things. Actually, as Plotinus tells us in his essay on the beautiful, while the roots of man are in the earth, the flower and the seed is in heaven. And the gradual growth up is told in one of the European folklore stories, Jack and the Beanstalk. The beanstalk being the symbol of the spine with its various chakras and centers. Actually, however, the soul constitutes the sum of the things we have done well. It is the sum of the victories, little ones mostly, which added together becomes the basis of redemption. The individual, in other words, must save himself. He cannot be saved by any outside power, nor can he be destroyed by any outside power. He must grow according to his own inward life and the powers that were bestowed upon him when he was set forth as a creature in this great world. Each individual, therefore, is building his own wedding garment. He's building his own soul out of his departments, out of his way of life, out of the parts of his nature, out of all the circumstances which occur to him every day. Life is a series of small victories over doubts, uncertainties, temptations. Wherever there is a victory, there is another flash of light in the soul body, and gradually this body becomes luminous, like the Christmas tree which Luther uses to describe it. And in the mysterious wedding of the Lamb, which is described in the book of Revelation, those who attain the golden wedding garment come as great hosts of souls, luminous and beautiful, to attend the marriage of the Lamb. And the marriage of the Lamb is simply the union of the individual soul with the world soul, and the return of the individual spirit to the spirit which is all spirit, always and forever the guiding power of life. But all of the great teachers of the world have given us a radiant, glorious picture of that which is waiting us. They've all given us the vision of that which comes to those who transcend the errors and follies of their times. And we have been given several great religions, which may differ in the names they have given, but are essential and identical in their teaching, that it's only those who live the life that can ever know the doctrine.
The greatest work that he did in Masonic research, he did before he was a Mason. And I was present on occasion, prior to him being a Mason, when he would teach Masonry to officers and to students of Masonry. And the fact that he could do so made us recognize even more that what we possessed and thought was uniquely ours in terms of wisdom was available to others who dedicated their lives in a certain manner.
It was my privilege to have Manly join the Masonic ranks and have him join in San Francisco. And then when I became Grand Commander of the Scottish Rite, I had the privilege of signing papers for him to be admitted into our ranks. I also nominated him for election to the Knight Commander of the Court of Honor, and then later to become a member of the 33rd degree, and then just recently, within the past 5 years, as recipient of the highest award any Masonic body can make, which was the Grand Cross.
You mentioned in one of our emails is that you had met Manly Hall. I'm wondering, how did you come about meeting him, and what were your impressions of him and his work?
Well, I met him quite late on in his life. It was just a few years before his death. Well, I met him twice, but it was a calling, and he knew we were going to come, and we knew we had to go there. And so it was very friendly, lovely meeting, like old souls meeting. And at least that's where I felt it. And we straight away got on like old friends. It was lovely. He's a very, very fine soul, and called to his particular work of service, which is what he did so wonderfully well. And he had his own path of training to get there, to remind him of what he had to do and so on like that.
Right.
And he carried it out right to the very end.
I worked with him every day for 7 years. And I became his substitute lecturer when he couldn't do lectures. And eventually I became his screener. And it was just a beautiful 7-year adventure. And he had such a love for culture, like the whole world, like he loved everything. And he would be excited about learning new things.
Wow.
I mean, it was a beautiful time.
Man, you actually were chosen, picked by Manly P. Hall. That whole experience was like another world.
Oh yeah, completely. I mean, I was ignorant, dark, I was a bad person, into doing damage in the world, and he completely just turned me into this other human being who just loves life and loves information and knowledge, loves helping people. He was so great to be around, man. He was really funny and like really sweet and just such a really like the most wholesome person I ever met in my life. I mean, he was really great. I was seeing a different way of life.
Wow.
And a different way of aging, by the way, because the man's in his 80s, and he would tell me, like, he'd be working and he'd say, I need this book, and you're going to find it on the second shelf on the way in the back of the library. It's got a red, I mean, he knew, like, crystal clear.
Wow.
Yeah.
The position where the books were.
Yeah.
Truly amazing.
When I was around him, he reminded me of, like, this old Chinese master, you know.
Wow. Embodied that. That's incredible.
Mr. Hall stood for something. He was not just a he was not just a fabulously effective lecturer, teacher, writer, but he was the representative, I would almost say the embodiment of a tradition. But this tradition is the inner, the esoteric, is someone who is in communication or has been in a major communication with a power beyond this world. And I can testify to it. I am one of the few who are still here, who worked with and for Mr. Hall in the last 20 years of his life. I can swear to it that we have a spiritual giant in our midst.
Now we say the individual leaves here. After having 70, 80, 90, whatever it is, or less years, the entity retires. Now where does the entity go? What happens to it? Does it cease? Does it pass into some kind of a Hades? Does it pass into oblivion, as science would say? The answer is, according to the wise, that it returns to the ocean of the race of which it is a part. It becomes again a part of the great structure of totality. But each time it comes back, it brings with it another grain of reality. Out of every life, we learn that there is a certain truth that we are going to gradually accept. But each time we go back into that source, we carry with us germs and traces of wisdom that we have learned. These things go back into the unit, and gradually the great being, humanity, becomes wider in all its parts. Little by little it grows, each individual contributing one tiny grain of truth to the construction of the entire. And in the course of time, truth will survive, and every entity will have learned the same lessons and will form a complete and perfect unity. From that time on, we will have an enlightened race. This is the race of the heroes, referred to by the Greeks. This is the eternal and divine race that occupies space, and which goes on to the next step of the great unfoldment towards reality. Now, when this divine life finishes itself, when we finally come to the point where all of these entities have unfolded the potential which is in them, what happens? Then, according to mythology and legendary, we give birth to another race of gods, another race of divine beings that become the parents of worlds, the parents of systems, and take their place in the great hierarchy of eternal growth that goes on forever, beyond the stars, beyond the horizons, beyond the infinite, and beyond the galaxies. We do not know what lies beyond. We do not know the infinite good because we have not achieved the finite good as yet. But it's coming, it has to come. And in the fullness of time, we will see that we are one being, flowing through time and eternity to the fulfillment of the purpose for which we were intended. We do not know exactly what that purpose is, but we know that that purpose rests in the mind and heart of the deity at the source of life. The principle at the source of life ordains that we shall achieve and shall become co-workers with the angels and the archangels in the forming and shaping of destinies for world as yet unformed. It is a great system of eternal growth, and we should be very glad because there is no place in it for the infirmities of failure. They are all instances in a great success of the power that we seek to serve. Well, I guess that's for the moment. Now, I'd like to make an announcement at this time.